Today we'll take a look at the Cayin N3 Ultra. Now this is one of the most affordable DAPs you can get with tubes built in. The only downside is that it has no internet connectivity, but today let's take a look at how it sounds like, how it feels like to use it, and is it worth it? I mean, this is launched like a few months back and I'm excited to actually finally try it out. This is how the device looks like in the box. It comes with a simple case actually, so you don't really need to buy a case if you don't want to. And then just a charging cable. Comes with a screen protector too that you can apply directly. And that's about it. So let me clear the table and then we'll start reviewing the Cayin N3 Ultra. Before I continue, I'd like to thank Zeppelin for helping me find this copy here. Now this is kind of sold out in Singapore, you can't even find it secondhand. And they managed to find one copy in their storeroom, and weirdly it's not even in their system itself. So at first they said that they have no stock, and then when they did and they managed to get one more copy for me. So I'd like to thank them for it. So this is how the device looks like. Let me tear this piece of plastic. And you can see that this is a very nice and slick device. It is also quite small if you actually compare it to, let's say, the R4 from Hebe. It is about the same size and slightly shorter here. So it is quite a compact device considering that it is a tube-based device. Now, it's glass, so you will attract your fingerprints, so you know, just note on that. Now you must put the protector around it, because if not you will crack the glass and it's kind of sad. But I got the better one. I mean, it was given to me, so I'd like to thank them for it really. And this is a much nicer case. Once you put in the case, it fits really nicely, and I think it is a very slick device. And I love this blue color case, really. So without wasting time, let me boot it up, insert some songs, and then we will do some comparisons. So the device has booted up, and this device itself doesn't have any internet, so you have to load files into the device. Now on the screen it looks a bit washed out because my light is really bright. So let me try to make it brighter. So I managed to make it brighter. Now this OS looks like a custom OS. It doesn't have much things, but it works kind of very like Android. So if you are an Android user, I don't think you'll get lost in this device itself. Now before you start, my understanding is that you have to go to audio settings and then, you know, do a music scan of all the tracks in your SD card so that, you know, you can record it in. I have loaded quite a bit of tracks. I bought some tracks from HD Tracks themselves, and they are my usual songs, which is great, so I can then compare it with other DAPs. So this is it. You know, when it comes to the interface itself, it's very simple. I mean, there is an equalizer built in, then there is the play, then you can see the album art and everything. But other than that, very simple device, nothing much to shout about. I have to say that overall the interaction is quite smooth though. Maybe because it's not bogged down by any additional software, it is actually really smooth, and I can see myself using it for many years, because a device with no internet, then you don't really need to care about updating. It will work as long as you got the digital files. Now for the input and output, of course I'm charging now, but you can see that interestingly there is a single-ended line out, single-ended headphone out, and then a balanced line out and headphone out. So they combine this. Though I think that in today's world, maybe by flicking this around will be better. I mean, balance is more common, but you know, that's just me. Maybe on the entry level, which is more priced to this device, they are still using single-ended. Now this device itself is not really expensive. It's about 700 plus Sing dollars. I believe it's about 500 USD. Now the tubes are here, so you can see they will light up later when I plug in my earphones. But other than that, this is pretty much it for the device itself and the general usage. So for listening, I will use a device that's of course for its price. This is the U4S. And this guy here sounds really good. I love it. I just never go about posting its first look. But you know what? Let's not waste time. Let's take a listen. So I'm not going to go in depth into how it sounds like because I mean this is a DAP with IEMs. Most of the sound actually comes from the IEM itself. But the question is, what's the difference between solid state and non-solid state, right? Firstly, I think for this particular device here, you can actually switch between solid state and non-solid state. And then when you are in non-solid state, aka tube state, you can actually switch between classic and modern. Very similar to how their C9M works. The difference between this and the C9 II is that this doesn't use Nutube, this one uses properly NOS tube, and they are Gen 6418 tubes. And you can actually go between, you know, classic and modern sound, and there is a difference. Unlike the C9 II, which I find that they were very, very close, this one makes a quite good difference. Firstly, between any of the tube to solid state always feel a little bit more flatter, a bit more airier. That's how I feel. It's a bit more airier. However, it feels a little bit more accurate, but just neutral sound. Depends. Neutral can be good and bad to you. Now, for the tube, it always consolidates the mids a little bit. The center becomes a bit more focused and a bit more thicker in sound. Now, in the modern mode, it feels like it is somewhere in between solid state and very tubey sound, and that is that it is still quite airy and quite wide in terms of sound, but there is some thickness in the mids and a bit of smoothness there. While in tube mode, it really consolidates the mids itself and really have this thicker, more powerful mids, while still having a generally smooth sound, in fact a very smooth sound compared to solid state. So there is a noticeable difference when switching between tube and solid state itself, especially if you go from classic to solid state. And not only that, classic do reduce the soundstage just a bit. Unlike modern actually have no reduction in soundstage, at least the edge of the sound doesn't reduce, though the voice just gets a little bit more focused in modern itself. And if you want a more mid-centric sound, then classic is also the best. It gives a little bit more mid. So if you are like sensitive to treble, it does reduce that treble a little bit more, or the sibilance a little bit. You know, so there is some perks to doing this, and of course, it is a very smooth sounding device. Now, this DAP itself can do EQ and stuff, which I will not go through. But overall, when I was using it just now, it was a very pleasant to use device, and you can easily, you know, change all the settings, change the song, scrub through without any much lag. All of them are actually lossless music here, so I'm very happy when it comes to general usage. So that is, of course, just using it alone. So now I will compare with another DAP and see what's the difference. Now this is a pure solid state DAP. This is of course the R4. It has the same sound as this device, just that this is on streaming and this is of course on inbuilt FLAC. So I want to hear what's the difference between both of these devices, and then let's see whether there is a noticeable difference. I will compare solid state to solid state, then followed by tube versus the R4. In solid state versus solid state mode, I feel like this is a little bit more open sounding. It's also a little bit more spread out. The soundstage is just a touch bigger. And it feels like it is a slightly, I would say it's airier and brighter sound compared to this. This feels a little bit more thicker, and that means a bit more focused and more consolidated. This one a bit more spread out. But overall, I think in terms of quality of sound, I think this one is higher. There is a touch more clarity to the sound itself, at least when I hear it through my U4S, compared to the R4. So you get a touch more clarity, a sound that is a little bit more airier and also slightly bigger and a bit brighter compared to the R4 itself. Now, is that a better sound signature to you? I do not know, but to me, I think that the Cayin N3 Ultra in solid state mode is better than the R4 in many technical ways. So now that is of course in solid state mode. Let's hear it in tube versus of course the R4 solid state. So in modern tube mode versus the R4, it is actually quite similar in sound, just that this one has a slightly bigger sound and the mids are a touch smoother and also more focused. So you know, you still have that soundstage advantage over the R4, but now you have a more consolidated and focused mids region, and it is a touch smoother than the R4 when you are in modern tube mode. Now I won't go classic because classic is going to be quite different. because even in the normal comparison between the Cayin N3 modes, the classic is like the extreme one, which will literally focus the sound more, gives it a bit thickness and everything. So I would just say that both of these are very similar sounding when it is in modern tube mode. Now that being said, the clarity is still a touch better on the N3 Ultra. So if you ask me, the N3 Ultra is a superior sounding device, at least to me, with more options. However, well, the R4 has the ability to use Android, which is a huge advantage, especially if you want to do streaming. You can't do streaming with the N3 Ultra. And of course, I don't know whether long-term test-wise will this, because it has no internet and no additional overhead, last longer in battery life. I have no idea. But I'm guessing that they will be quite similar in those aspects of things. Now, I won't be comparing to even more expensive devices because I don't think it makes much sense anymore. But compared to the R4, this is a step up. So if you just want to step up your sound from the R4, which is like 300 plus Sing dollars, half the price of the N3 Ultra, this is a true step up to the sound. In fact, I think based on what I hear so far, this may actually be as good as some of the flagships, just without the connectivity, which is a good thing, right? I mean, you give out a bit of the functions and connectivity, you get some flagship-like sound. It is quite possible. But you know what? Maybe it's just my imagination. Let me go and get a flagship, tap in and compare to give you guys a good answer. So I compared the N3 Ultra from Cayin versus the M9 Plus from Shanling. And I want to just, summarize this very, very quickly. The solid state mode is a little bit more brighter, a little bit airier sounding. However, the size of the soundstage is the same as the M9 Plus. The M9 Plus have a very big sound, but it's a bit warmer, a bit thicker, a bit more body, right? And then when you compare it to the tube mode on the N3 Ultra, you'll get a slightly warmer, more bodied sound, a bit more focus in the mids. However, you lose a touch of airiness. While the M9 Plus really showcased the difference there, the airiness, the slightly larger perceived soundstage, and still having that body and warmness. So if you ask me, the M9 Plus is like taking the best of the tube, which is the slightly more body and warmness you get in the N3 Ultra, combined with the solid state, which is the soundstage and the air that you still have left. Of course, it's not as airy sounding as the N3 Ultra in its solid state mode, but the fact that you have body, you have warmness, and you have that air and clarity. Definitely, I think that compared to tube mode on the N3 Ultra, I think the M9 Plus is a touch more clearer, but if you are using the solid state mode on the N3 Ultra, it is very close, or if not indistinguishable for clarity itself. So overall, I think that the N3 Ultra is really good. I mean, it is getting you almost flagship quality sound in a package that is smaller, and of course you have no streaming. Well, without streaming, this device will probably last you way longer because you are not needed to update the device often. You just need to make sure that you get the files and put it in. The disadvantage is that a lot of the modern releases for songs are always released online first, especially for singles, and you are limited by choices when it comes to getting the files into your device. So it's a trade-off. The ease of getting your files in your device, leveraging on modern streaming services, versus having a device that sounds great, sounds very good. I mean, almost close to a flagship quality, of course, without the power. And in a package that is so much smaller, and you get options to the sound. Tube sound, solid state sound, they sound really distinctly different. I think this is a bang for buck. And well, depending on your mood, you can just change the sound by just clicking a few buttons, going from tube to solid state, and I think you will enjoy your time. That's really about it. This is the first look of the Cayin N3 Ultra. But before I end, I just want to test one last thing. I just wanted to test whether was there hiss in normal listening mode. At least with my U4S, I can't hear any hiss when you are doing it in tubes. So I guess this is fine. Now, this is not amplifier, so unlike an amplifier where you can get hiss by ramping the volume up, this one you really can't, because when you're not playing any song, it's not going to play anything, not even output anything at all. So you do not get that bass hiss. And when you are playing music, well, unless your music have extreme dynamic range, you probably can't hear the hiss in the blackness in normal listening volume for an IEM, because by the time it'll be too loud for you when you can hear any hiss at all. So I would just say that just now when I'm listening to music, I can't hear any hiss with the U4S on the N3 Ultra. And that's really the last thing I want to talk about. That's about it for today. I hope you enjoyed this short little first look, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.